goddamn.
Get
What are
your
we
shit
doing?
together.
Use our link. Use the link in our bio, and you get
Use-
10% off. Yeah.
We'll just
Direct
say
shipping.
use code blah blah blah. Link in our bio.
Oh yeah. What do we be with BWB10? Bros with Brains 10. Yeah. Cool. All right. We're on here.
You fucking right, mate.
G'day, guys and girls. This episode is proudly brought to you by our sponsors, supshq.com.au. Use the code BWB10 at checkout for direct shipping and 10% off. G'day, listeners, and welcome back to another episode. We have no idea what the fuck was going on there, but
it's like, is it working? Is it not? We'll find out.
We're playing around with some new things. We're getting innovative and creative over here. This is what we do. Now we've had the luxury of high performance studios and fucking looking at
welcome back to your regular schedule.
Back to your regular programming, but we're going to try and do better. Hello. Thank you for joining us. We're at 100. We're in the triple figures now, so we're going to try and up the quality somehow between two states. I don't know how that'll work, but I mean the shit talks.
One of us needs to buy a sound bar and a setup.
Honestly, the amount of reactions I got to those buttons, next time I'm going ham.
Yeah. Actually, surprising how many fucking people were like, "Oh man, thanks for fucking talking about the length and partial shit." I'm like, yeah, it's all good. It's what we do. So many people are like, "Fucking thank God." I'm like, yeah,
yes.
I could rant on it more, but I mean, maybe another episode or two. We'll see. We've got to, save it, let it build up, let that tension build up.
Yeah, just let the anger rise, let it feed you.
Yeah, and then explode. I mean, wait, what?
It's just Palpatine in the head of Anakin, just three movies worth of anger, and then
we're playing the long game.
Exactly. Well, let everyone play around with it. Tell us we're wrong. Show us how you did it, and how much more beneficial it is, and watch our clients get results.
100%.
But anyway, we'll rage again against that in 3 months' time.
Yeah. Yeah, good man, good. Back into training back at home, which is nice. Fucking centered on the hack squats, which is always good, and died, and now I've got mad DOMs. It's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, can't complain. I mean, I could, but I don't think anyone would really care. Like, I've got 4 sets of fucking quads for my entire block, like each week for my block. So I'm like, to Joe, like, challenge accepted, bro. I'm going to fucking full send.
4 sets, 2 primers. Fucking, that's 2 sets a session. Done.
Yeah, like I am going to send it. I am going to actively try and grow my quads.
We'll find a negative RAR and work in that range.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go like, this is when I'll bring length and partials in for fun.
Yeah, and it'll just
call them failure reps.
Be standard of failure rep. Yeah, just be a failure rep.
Yeah.
Literally. Look, guys, I'm lengthening my partial rep. You mean a failure rep? Cool, bro.
Yeah, literally just trying to complete another rep and failing. Got it. Length and partial. That's all we'll call it.
Oh fuck, what a time.
Yeah, it's been good, been busy, but good busy.
That's what we like.
How about you, bro? Good, same shit.
Nah, this week is getting the jitters and the angst and the excitement and all that's like really starting to kick in now. Like I was sitting there sort of thinking the other day, like, we planned this 6 months ago, and I don't know, like, I think it's my anticipation of failure in the future, but like at every point I was kind of expecting something to go wrong, which is bad. I know that. But at the same time, like, what if the visa isn't accepted, or what if the passport takes too long, or what if the licenses don't get, because I lost my wallet and license and stuff, so to get that renewed. So it's like at every point I was like, oh, this will take too long. And now it's like a fucking week away, and it's just all happening. Everything's booked in. Our tickets are sorted. Accommodation is sorted. My time on stage is sorted. Presentation, like, we're just at the back end now, finalizing slides and putting things in. I've kind of got like the same jitters I have on a grand final. Like, it's like that week leading up to like a big game, except that it's not a big game, and it's just stand on stage and telling people what I do and know. But yeah, so I had as I was just sort of saying off camera, had some colleagues in America I could caught up with, and just that they're so respected, and I appreciate their time, that I just worked around them. But it meant that I was up at 3 a.m. yesterday morning. I woke up 6 a.m. the day before. I was up at 3 a.m. talking about the presentation and kind of like how to connect better with American audiences, because the colleague was American. And then I was up again at 6:30 talking to the founders of Catalyst and sort of like what the presentation looks like and what they think. Again, they were happy. A few things just to modify, but yeah, that's like 3 hours sleep to kind of make the most of this experience and make sure that it's on the right page. So I guess I definitely can't say I'm not putting in the miles to make it happen, but just that kind of like first time on stage, I'm like, don't fuck it up. But
Yep, totally fair.
is what it is. I mean, I've stood in front of 1,000 people naked, but I'm like more jittery about teaching people what I know. Cool.
Yeah, who would have thought? Now you just have to imagine everyone else naked. Do that old chestnut.
I was saying that to someone the other day. I was like, ain't it funny how like the old adage is imagine everyone you're speaking to naked. I'm like, but the funny part is I've been the naked one, and I'm more nervous about imagine everyone else naked.
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable if I was naked with them.
Yeah, if I just had my posing trunks on and I was down another 5% body fat, I'd be like, cool, let's talk. It takes the edge straight off.
You can do guest posing. You're at a good body fat level for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be you don't have to be stage ready. You just have to be
just
semi
guest
okay.
posing.
Guest posing.
This is what got to this level, guys. Here, have a look.
There you go. So now this is how we're going to talk about the spectrum.
Yeah, legit. But yeah, no. So
now, let me bend over and pick up this.
Here's the moon pose.
Yeah, here's the hamstring pop.
This is what squared glutes look like. Yeah. No. Besides that, man, it's good. We got client consults literally up to the day I leave, which is cool. People getting excited, getting antsy, getting a few more competitors come on board, which is good. It's exciting, actually. It's very good. It's a good talking point. Is one of the girls she'd been following me for a while, and she was a friend of another client we have. And I'd spoken to her a few times just about training and things like that. I had no inkling that she had interest in like wanting coaching.
Yeah.
And I sort of reached out to her. I said, "Hey, fucking, I'm excited. Fantastic. Like, awesome. You've booked in a consult. Obviously, it's free and on me and all that sort of stuff. Make sure you bring all the info so we can have the most of it. I hate when people come and don't maximize the chat.
Yeah.
Like, worst case scenario, you walk away learning some things and I can help you out. I don't care." And she was sort of like, no, like I've been following your stuff for ages and watch how you coach. And I want to make sure that we align before I booked in and knew that's what I wanted. And I was like, well, awesome. That's literally why we give so much stuff away, right? Like you can find how we coach, how we prep, how we do things all on Facebook, YouTube, podcasts, like nothing's on hide. So yeah, go check it, make sure that we align before you book in or want to actually go further.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, nothing worse than going to a meeting, a consult, whatever it is, and being underprepared or not knowing if you what you want to ask or what you want to get from it. Like
I told her,
as much as a client, you want to get something from it.
Exactly. That's like I try to say, like, as much as we're taking money to provide you coaching, there's also more to value to the service than just, hey, here's your program and meal plan. Like, give me questions, probe my brain. It's what it's here for. I mean, we don't really do a lot as coaches that is very heavily, time consuming. We just go through our processes and make sure you're all good. But when you actually ask the questions or come to the catch ups and the consults with thoughts or problems, that's where it gets fun. That's where like the puzzles and the chess matches begin. So yeah, it was good. It was good that she sort of waited that long, which means, I always get on the not stress side, but on the side of like, I can always be doing better, or, some clients drop off because they're finished or they're just, financial struggles, whatever. And you just never know who's lurking in the background, like looking for a client. And it's always like, you can drop your head about the one, but what about the 5 that might sign up and need your help?
Exactly right.
So yeah, besides that, man, it's good. Uni's back. We're into week 1. Just a fucking shitty first week lectures, which are a waste of time. It's like, this is the standard for the year. I know. I'm
cool.
in my fucking
Thanks. Let me know when we get to the good stuff.
Yeah, let's actually start talking about some shit now. So yeah, it'll be good fun to keep that sort of content coming. I think it'll be surprising, but I think the counseling theory one will be good for a lot of listeners that are coaches. I'll try and make sure that I put out some content on that, just because there's a lot in there that it's already stuff I know or do in terms of like goal setting, value orientation, acceptance theories, CBT, but it's more so like how you conduct yourself with a client, how you conduct yourself with someone where you can be, that compassionate, empathetic side, but also understand your client's goals. If they need a hard ass, you'd be a fucking hard ass. If they need someone to have that touch where you're like, look, how are you this week? How are you this week?
Yeah.
Let them sort of set the tempo. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good to have those sort of like extra backings.
The art of coaching, knowing your client and then adjusting your coaching to said client.
Shocking, right? Like
we would have thought.
What I did not realize was a hard skill for people is language flexibility. Like knowing how to knowing the tone and language to match with your client, where just being like Dick Jones 24/7 and acting like a toss to every client because I'm the hard ass coach is not actually how you coach.
Well, that and understanding that you could tell a client one thing, they may not understand it, but
say it in
a different way, and they'll probably get it. It's like that's the beauty of learning how to coach.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
those lessons through having like larger amounts of female prep clients now, like just that experience of being hands-on with that is a huge learning curve. Like you guys want to be told they're not training hard enough, do more, stop being a pussy. You girls are like, they want to be, they need you to be harder, but also like kind of want to be reinforced to doing the right thing. And, just sort of like
Well, that's just it.
just those little slight changes where you're like, okay, I'm picking this up now. Like I can be sturdy with you, but you also need that like fatherly kind of like good job, and now pull your head out of your ass and go harder.
Yeah, it's always like anything that you're giving critique to. Always start with the good.
Yeah, the piss
and then
sandwich.
drip in the bad. Yeah, drip in the bad.
Yeah, the piss sandwich. Nice, piss, nice.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, top it off with something complimentary to keep them in a positive mindset.
Your glutes are coming great. Your fucking chest looks like shit, but your legs are good.
But we'll be ready on time.
We'll be ready on time. Just keep doing what you're doing, but don't fuck it up.
Yeah, just do it again and again and again and again.
Rinse and repeat. But yeah, no, that's pretty much where it's at. Like we're just now full steam ahead for, we're now into the second half of the year, but I consider this like the presentation's realistically it's still the first half. All the work's been done in the first half. So we've got a big sort of attack into the second half of the year where we start putting out more education content and trying to get these courses finished, get the Matter Institute actually finished off and all started, recorded and taken care of.
Finished and started all at the same time.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the foundations are there, but actually like getting the content really fully finished. Like I presented around this by some colleagues and stuff like that, or other coaches on Friday night, and they all said like they would have paid for it. So, just that alone, we've got something here that I can literally just re-record it, add an extra hour of content because to me, it's easy as rambling. And then kind of just put that out there, start getting that feeler that Matter is also about education, not just about like preps.
Yeah, fair.
So yeah, it's pretty much like, first half of the year's done and now we've got plans for the second.
Beautiful. How we like it.
Now, we got 45 minutes to do questions and rants. What are we ranting? What are we attacking? Who are we destroying?
Didn't we? What do we got on the? What did we have?
Oh, we got a mirror. The mirror is sorted.
The mirror. Pick one.
The old the old self-teaching route and confirmation bias.
Oh yeah. Okay. No. So don't self-learn. Go to university. Case closed. Okay. Question. No. No. It's funny, like you were sort of saying yesterday, how some more influential people on social media will say we're having a bit of a bickering, which is always fun.
I love it. Fucking love it.
We won't name names, people that, who really cares? Let's be real. But they were having it was an interesting conversation, right? Because obviously the way posts are perceived by people is one way. So that this is a whole entirely separate issue, I guess. But how you perceive a post is on you, not necessarily the person posting.
Exactly. Yes.
And then if you're a coach, understanding that the person's post is probably targeted at either their ideal audience or the audience they currently have. Doesn't mean that they're the same audience you have. So just because you coach in a certain way or work with a certain demographic doesn't mean that the post, this other person who deals with a totally different demographic, posts. I don't think it's really like implied for you or your clientele. So don't take offense to it. Have a constructive, not argument, but have a constructive conversation for sure, because it's always interesting to see different people's, sides to what they perceive and what they see. Because, you and me, we can look at, a blank piece of paper and see two totally different things, right?
Exactly.
It's always interesting, and it's always interesting to learn from that perspective. But to then try and put your own bias on it, is interesting. Like to try and see it from your own side and not try and see it from the other person's side. And a lot of that does come down from like almost self-educated people. So people that are still, I guess, quite intelligent and are able to teach themselves certain things. But the issue with self-education, like I feel like a lot of us coaches, especially those that are listening that are coaching, like we all go through sort of a form of self-education. We have to, right? Especially when we're upskilling, that's technically, getting some sort of self-education in a sense. Right. So the difference is when we do self-education, especially as we get older and more mature, we want to learn about things we want to learn about that benefit us and our biases. And that's really hard to get out of the way of. And it's understanding that there's always two sides. And when you want to learn about something, always learn the other side too. to make a more educated, balanced decision on, you know, whatever it is that's in front of you, whichever problem presents. And like, I know in the realm of psychology, for example, there is so many sides to a story. Like there's not just two, like there's, you know, 22, right?
Yeah.
So trying to gather as many viewpoints, facets, theories as possible, then making your decision is going to put you in a better, more unbiased position, because, well, you have, or you still may be biased, but at least you have the education, the know-how to back it up and say, well, hold on, I've read this, this, and this, and I understand this, this, and this, instead of I just saw this, did this, or learned this, so I'm just going to apply this.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I think that's where uni can be good and I guess can be bad, depending on subjects and you know, lecturers and stuff like that. Like some lecturers will only teach literally like one side.
Yes.
One side of a coin. But a good lecturer, a good professor will teach you both and be like, like, here's the good, here's the bad. You know, when you're trying to make a judgment call, here's the good, here's the bad. What do we do? Weigh up the pros, weigh up the cons. That's the two sides to a story. That's what we're trying to apply when we make decisions as coaches, or even in self-education. Like, okay, like I like to learn about PEDs. We have so many viewpoints on PEDs, you know, from huge like people around the world, right? But we have those that are, you know, one side of the spectrum extreme, and then we have those that are completely the other side extreme. But like, I might agree more with one side, but hold on, I still want to listen to the other. I still want to learn about the other side, because there could be some very good viewpoints or some very good things that get put out, and then I can make my judgment. And if I still go with, you know, one extreme side, I can say, yeah, this is what I align with, because what this person's saying, while I acknowledge it, understand and grasp it, I don't agree with it. I don't blah, 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 but I've learned it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do this instead of this. But 9 times out of 10, when you learn two sides, what do? You fall in the fucking middle.
Yeah, literally.
You literally fall in the middle.
We've talked about this 100 times. For some reason, like we have this spectrum that we exist on, where it's like bro science across to I guess the science, the evidence-based science. 90% of coaches, the more you start to study, the more you realize you come back to the middle, and you start to actually see like that middle ground, right? Where it's like, you know, like training to failure for ages, all the top tier fucking 80s, 90s bodybuilders, 70s bodybuilders, everyone was like, just go to fucking failure, pick a weight that makes you fall within the rep target at absolute extreme, push yourself to the max and just go. And then came along the whole, hold on, we can get stimulus at the same range if you fucking stop 2 reps shy of failure, blah, blah. How many people fuck that up because they actually don't know how to train to failure? And now the research is like, you know, starting to come back out where it's like, hey, actually, there's still a very good call to the proxy of failure and just going and sending it. And, you know, you start to end up with the same with dieting. How many people end up back on the same, like, trying to reinvent the wheel with if it fits your macros, and then end up back on like the same 5 or 6 meal plan because, well, structure and convenience is easy when you get to 4, 5, 6,000 calories a day. Point being is you get to that point where like you've weighed up, you've educated, you've taken the time to learn, and you start to realize like the answers are in the middle. The answer usually lies in there. But yeah, like you said, you know, when it comes to psychology, there is so many schools of thoughts. You know, we've got existentialists, we've got postmodernists, we've got like literally the terms psychoanalytics and analytical psychologists are 2 different fields of study. Literally worded the same words, just in different order, are a different school of thought as to approach the theory of the concept of counseling and therapy. One focuses more on believing that the therapist should be almost a superior role model. Like, I'm going to lay out a foundation you can operate by. The other believes that the client should be a part of or client-centric approach to healing and getting better and laying the foundation for their own results, exploring their dreams and thoughts and things like that. What's underlying the psyche? That simple change in words, 2 different fucking fields, but they're the same words. So when you get to a point where, like, you know, like you said here, the perception of what you see and the way you base it on what you studied, your school of thought, is already a confirmation bias, because you've created a scenario where this aligns with you, especially if you are doing unstructured study and you're getting into a realm that is structured study. If you do an unstructured route of study and you're trying to then project that into conviction as absolute, you start to create the problem that your way is the only way and you've seen this and therefore it's correct. Like, you can have all the study, that's fantastic, but that doesn't mean that someone else hasn't studied a different way and found that there's a different option or a different opinion. And you start to get to that point then where, you know, your confirmation starts to get projected through your clients, and your approach is now the approach. And let's say you're educating or mentoring coaches or other clients to be better so they can help people as well. You're now teaching them a single train of thought. And the single train of thought is not how we teach psychology or how we teach, nutrition or how we teach bodybuilding or how we teach physique coaching. There is so many routes to the same destination, different logics and different rationales as to why. When you start coming through the whole, this is the way I see it, and therefore you're creating this problem. Well, firstly, hang on. Let's take this step back and look at who we're talking to here. Let's put two opposite ends of the spectrum onto the conversation. We've got people who are talking to athletes, and we've got people who are very elite-minded, very obsessive, neurotic, very driven. If you're taking the softer approach and let's say your field of study, you're studying the type of person who needs to be more compassionate, understanding, self-caring, and you're saying, hey, as a coach, you can't talk to your clients that way, or you shouldn't encourage this or this line of thought, you're projecting the insecurity and the bias that you have towards how you believe that type of person needs to be coached onto people that operate at such a different wavelength and level to you that it's not even worth conveying. It's not even worth having the conversation because you don't understand. And because you'll never understand, because you haven't done the structured critical thinking system to figure out that, oh, they aren't me, and therefore they aren't my clients, and therefore they aren't who I want to talk to, they're going to receive that in a different way. And if you go onto someone's page to attack that, they're well in their right to defend that position and challenge your opinion just because you've done some self-teaching. I was at a point where I had to unfollow certain people because I was getting the same way. I was like, this person is saying that working and that, wording things in a way where their way is the right way, but on a global level. And I was like, oh, this is really starting to piss me off, because you're telling 1%ers, whether it be bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongmen, fucking marathon runners, elite sportsmen, it doesn't matter. But when you're conveying to these people that their level of operation is wrong based on the general average person, well, then you start to imply that being elite is wrong. And I start to fucking really draw a line with that. But then that was on me because I was seeing their stuff.
The other thing is as well, and this is where potentially the argument comes for experience. It's when people are trying to pick a coach, and it's picking a bodybuilding coach, it's much easier and almost a safer bet in most cases, people think, to pick someone who's actually done bodybuilding before, if that makes sense. So it's pick the coach that's been in that spot or been there, because because when it comes to that bias, well, guess who's going to be the most biased? Those that have experienced it. Right? We have that. We have that personal opinion because, well, we've been there, we get it. So it's when you're telling, the elite that, you have to, not that you have to, but it's hey, you're going to probably benefit if you actually go this way about it. It's well, I can say that because I've been there. It's what I've probably done, and probably what, hundreds of thousands of other people have done to get to a level that these people are trying to get to. So if you've never been there, it's really hard to, empathize with the person. And then that in itself leads to its own, critique. It leads to its own actual fucking bias, confirmation bias.
I mean,
it's a funny thing.
You get to a point where you're trying to apply the way you might coach an average person. There's nothing wrong with being an average person, but if you're trying to take the compassion and self-assessment, self-image, mental health, the goal directions, and the more average to everything, really, if you're trying to take that to a person who's trying to be 1%er, trying to be a 1%er, and you're trying to tell them the way they're operating is wrong, it's just not going to land in the way that you think it will. And in fact, you're probably just going to create more problems than if you left it alone. There's a certain point in time where you got to realize that you are not that person, and you never will be, which is fine. You don't need to. You're coaching 99% of the world. If that's who you want to work with, fantastic. Do I even agree with your method? Not really. But at the same time, if that's working for you, getting clients are getting results to a degree, if they're getting results, cool. However, you have never been, nor do you coach, nor do you understand, nor can you comprehend the mentality of an elite athlete, 1%er, obsessive compulsive client. Yet they are the ones that change the world, whether that be CEOs, whether it be businessmen, entrepreneurs, whether it be elite athletes. The traits cross field tend to be the same. Now, starting to tell them that they're wrong or they need to operate this way to be healthier, you're placing this perspective or this bias that health point of view, your values might be health or mental health or, self-esteem and self-image and self-worth. That might be your hierarchy of importance when it comes to values as a person. But if you start attacking or dictating to someone whose first point of or their hierarchy of values sits success or winning or like intensity or effort, and you start telling them, oh, they're going to be more conscious of your health, guess what is not going to happen? They're not going to give a fuck about their health. Their literal life is dedicated and predicated on winning and doing the elite things because, hey, that takes me 1% closer. Whether they get there or not is irrelevant. But if you're trying, like, you're projecting a bias of your own values and borderline insecurities onto that coach and the people that they work with, but you're not comprehending that you're coming to their page to do it. Just as I'm not coming to your page to write on your stuff because it's not going to be positive towards your people you work with, you're probably wasting your time going to that page or that person or that level of educator if it's not to have a mutual conversation, but rather saying, hey, you're creating these problems. Well, no, because those problems probably already exist. If people already have them, it's what makes them so successful. So we're not attacking the problem. But if you're coming here to say this is going to create those problems, you're doing it from a place of your perception and your bias, which is not how you educate or how you become educated or how you teach. So being able to actually unemotionally, logically withdraw your own bias and recognize that you're probably creating the dichotomy in the problem is more important. And you should probably do that and then step back.
Yeah, maybe I completely agree with it. And that's why it's interesting. I think people don't realize, and it's like, it's when Amazon did the whole resume thing and they created an AI program to go through resumes, to go through positions, to fill positions. And they didn't even realize that those that programmed the algorithm for it had their own personal biases in it. And they didn't realize, they had no idea. They only came to realize after someone did an analysis on it and was like, hold on, it's only picking white men in their 40s that went to top 10 schools. But the people programming it didn't realize that that's what they were doing. So it's like your bias is so inherent. Like, you don't even know that you have it, but you can only create, your biases come from your experience a lot of the time, your personal experience growing up. There's so much that goes into it. Like the depths of what your opinions are come from like something so far back. Like it's not necessarily your fault in that you portray them, but if you keep adding to them as you get older and more mature without understanding that, hey, there are other sides to a story, well, then that's on you.
Especially when you start to project it as a superiority complex, like, hey, my way is right. And the way you do these things with your athletes, okay, your way is right to the person who wants to be health conscious and mentally self-esteem, body image worth, for sure. That method that you're applying there, fantastic. But when I've got an elite athlete whose first top 5 priorities and values are along the realms of like success and winning, then us approaching it with like a slow, self-compassionate, self-worth, fucking, don't be so neurotic, track information, take your time with it, explore these things. Like that's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not the same person. It's not the same like mentality.
Imagine you got someone getting a gastric sleeve. How you speak to them versus how the person that wants to get from 6% body fat to 4%. It's going to be probably 2 different conversations.
100%, fucking 100%.
I'm not going to coach them the same.
Exactly right. And so like to have that level of moral superiority in your coaching because, but I've gone and studied psych, or I've gone and studied counseling, or I've gone and studied fucking a certain form of nutrition, or I've gone and studied this route of dietary intervention, whatever it is, the likelihood that your approach is the morally superior one compared to someone else, but it's someone else's demographic and the way they're talking to them, I'm probably not going to side with you on that one. I might sort of like probably going to pull a pin and say, hey, look, actually, you're in the wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way you look at it and perceive it isn't how other people perceive it. So it doesn't mean how you're seeing it is right or wrong. But as soon as you start saying, hey, this is wrong, then you're wrong.
Yeah. Especially in a realm where the fixed science isn't fixed. Like we can go to things like chemistry and we know molecules are molecules. We know you go to like biology, you start to know that enzymes are enzymes. You start to see that hormones are hormones. There's things that are fixed in science where it's like your truth or your opinion or your moral belief isn't going to change that. How we approach coaching with so many unique traits and qualities in people, the effects of psychosocial, psycho-environmental, psychoeconomic factors that come into play, there's just no one way to skin a cat that's going to say, hey, this way is right, and you're creating problems. Like, let's say, just a really quick example, if you are someone that deals with people with, previous eating disorder histories or previous self-esteem issues, histories, you have what is called survivorship bias, in that the people that are coming to you are displaying the thing that is inherently wrong with the industry per se. Like, let's say that's what's wrong with the industry. You're working in that realm and extreme. You're going to start to get into a point where that's all you see come to you. So because that's all you see come to you, you're now starting to say that, hey, all these people have the same factor, that they, I don't know, track their nutrition, or they track their training data, they track their food, they track their weight. They all have that, and that all of them now have this problem. Okay, but you've looked at the 3% of the entire population that becomes that. Let's look at the 97. Do they all have that same trait? No. Okay, so in your population that you work with, that is what happens. That's part of the equation. Fantastic. There is 97% of the population that doesn't happen to. So is it that this causes that problem, or is it a problem that exists in the demographic you work with?
Exactly right. Well, that's exactly why you're working in your demographic.
Yeah, right. Who'd have thought?
Like, dickhead.
It's like treating every healthy person as if they have cancer because you're a fucking endocrinologist.
Yeah, it's like you're literally either providing a problem that doesn't exist and then the solution, which is what, like, a lot of people started doing on social media. Like, hey, blah 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 blah. Does this sound like you? It's like, this is like the fortune cookie. This is everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Which is literally the thing we attempted to try years back.
Is that a thing? Can we coin that, the fortune cookie effect?
Sure, let's do it. We've coined enough.
Yeah, that and the runway effect. That's what we've got. Those two things are out. Anyone else takes them,
and get flat to lose fat. That's ours. Fuck off.
Yeah, true. 100%. We're gonna put that on a bumper sticker. Should we do questions?
Let's do it.
Man, we've got a few. First and foremost, the most important question of all: does Ben track his menstrual cycle?
Yes.
Key focus on menstrual cycle.
Yes, but I definitely do. It's in my data weekly. It says yes every 4th week.
Would you ever feel the need to employ Ment? No.
Employ what?
Ment. It's like Trenbolone, but 10 times stronger.
Oh, have you used it?
Yeah, way back. Yeah, no, you never will. If I'm looking after you, you definitely won't be using it. No. No, there is no plausible reason to ever use Ment, ever, to be honest. Like, it is, yeah, it's that. That's a literal, I'm not even going to go into it. It's just a no. Does sex actually impact performance, getting on stage, weightlifting comps, etc.? This was debunked a long time ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It would appear to be more those that have a routine. So it's like,
yeah,
if your routine, for example, let's go with not even competing. Let's just say, keep it simple. Let's keep it training. Like leg day.
Yeah.
When you're in a growth phase and you've got a big fucking leg day going on, you don't want to burn any energy in your head because you're like, fuck it, I want to just give everything to this leg day, right? And in your head, back of your head, you're like, sex is going to affect it. But we know from a physiological standpoint, it doesn't. But if your routine is, hey, I am not going to do anything that could disrupt the potential to have a great leg session.
You're playing in the realm of placebo.
That's what you do. You follow your routine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you include sex in your routine, then it'll be completely normal.
Yeah. I mean, like even in the route, like if it comes to like, just to touch on like performance in stage competitions, sex is a parasympathetic system. Like it's a parasympathetic stimulator. So
it's like if you're doing it right,
it should probably be relaxing. If you're in a peak week and you have the energy for it and it's going to help you relax, it's not going to hinder performance or like drop your tests that week where you look like shit. It's probably going to actually make you look better. This question is, do you have the energy for it?
If you can have sex in peak week, you didn't die, right?
Yeah. Honestly, that's pretty close.
Yeah, you're not lean enough.
If you ain't falling asleep with a dick in your hand mid-wank, you're not lean enough.
We should do a whole series on that. You're not lean enough.
You're not lean, yeah. It's like the equivalent of if she does XYZ, she's too young for you. It's just out there.
Yeah. It's like, he does this, and this, but like he's a 10, but he's a 10. Yeah, we'll do that for
yeah.
If you were to do more upskilling, what avenue would it be in? I mean, for me personally, I do look at a couple of courses every now and then. In-person seminar stuff I don't mind looking at. Upskilling for my job, I'd probably revisit maybe some chemistry. It's been a while. Obviously working with like enhancements and stuff like that, just touching on some chemistry again. I think I need a bit more of a refresher in. So I don't necessarily know if it's upskilling. You know what I mean? I don't know if, I'm sure I'll pick up something new. So I guess in a sense it is, but I don't think there's anything that crosses my mind at the moment. It's really just keeping up to date with, I guess, research, hypertrophy research and stuff like that. I know outside of doing training for clients and stuff like that, just my own personal, like, wanting to learn, revisiting some particle physics. I've been wanting to look at it for a while. I've been looking at astrophysics for a while. I know, nerd. I read a lot of astrophysics for the last couple of years, so probably touching on some particle physics again. It's what I wanted to do way back when I was younger. It was either be an archaeologist or a particle physicist.
Nice.
Looking at radiation and energy waves and stuff like that. So that's why when, like, you know, Oppenheimer came out, I was like, yes, like I've read literally all his papers. Like,
nice.
Like that's kind of my thing. But anyway.
All right. Cool.
What are you going to do for upskilling, dickhead?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, right. Same question. I thought that's your answer.
I've still got more.
Oh, cool. All right. Upskilling for me. Well, pretty much I had to go out and seek school acceptance. So obviously everyone who's been to uni knows kind of how it works. But for those that don't, like, we have your faculty of health, which is, the overarching faculty that my subject's under. But inside that, there's different schools, and sports psychology was for some dumb reason taken away from my school and my availability or eligibility for application as an elective. Don't know why, but I managed to get both schools' approvals. The School of Health and the School of Science, exercise science. Whatever it was basically two different schools or two different faculties, whatever the fuck the terminology works out to be. I need to get seniority approval to get back into that elective for some dumb fucking reason. So, this is where things start to get good. Sports psychology, and it's literally the professor is a previous performance psychologist for English cricket and the Gold Coast Suns, and it's on a couple other sort of like sporting events. So, as I've started to delve into things like working with ADF specialists, SAS guys, fighter pilot programs, movie stars, prep athletes, we're starting to get to a point where, like, that next level of coaching performance becomes relevant. And sort of knowing how to get the more out of my clients and more out of people is going to be obviously a powerful tool. So yeah, pretty much that was like a big, like, I seeked that out this semester to make sure that I could do it. So, seeking that, obviously, just getting more understanding of human emotion, psychology, performance, the psyche in general, just tapping again into different schools of thought, like taking from all rather than just looking at one because there's so many. As for like coaching, obviously I'm just always upskilling. I'll never think that I know enough. So, I'm subscribed to the Physique Collective. I'm subscribed to J3 University. Got through, obviously, like my ISSN. I stay relevant, up to date with that, all that sort of shit. So, yeah, at my point in career, there's never enough to stay upskill with. That's
fair. And what's your go-to pre, intra, and post-workout?
Intra at the moment on no food is literally just diet right. Pre, I'll use BBD, and post is again food. If I'm in a heavy phase, it'll probably be something like a protein, but usually it'll be like a whey protein with cream of rice, something post-workout wise. Yeah, I think for me, it depends on the session. My pre-nutrition doesn't usually change too much. It's usually either a sandwich, like toast, like bread, or some Nutri-Grain, pretty straightforward. And then, intra, again, depends on phase of training, whether it's a sugar-free Gatorade or a Gatorade or some cordial. Yeah. Just because, financial situation. No, I just like cordial. So it's easier to down 2 liters of cordial while I'm training. And post, that's the one that for me depends on the session. If it's a heavy leg session, I'm not eating. Like, I can't eat. Like I'm the guy that doesn't eat post leg session or post training, especially if it's a heavy hard session. I lose my appetite. But once it does come back, it's usually sushi. To be honest, I quite like sushi post training. Nice.
it just, yeah, it depends on phase of the day. Like, for example, like if I have a sandwich in the morning or toast, then I'll have a bowl of Nutri-Grain post-training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I tend to mix them around a little bit. Or if I have Nutri-Grain and, I've got bread, I might eat some toast with a protein shake or something, depending on how my stomach is feeling. Who's the next guest on the ESC podcast? I don't know. I've got a couple of people I'm speaking to, but I'm in no rush to do that. Effective anabolics on metabolism and nutrient absorption, etc. This is where the more specific the question is, the easier it is to answer, because depending on which one will depend on what it does. Whether it's an oral, whether it's injectable, whether it's, a 19 nor testosterone base, whether it's, DHT derivative. Like, there's so many options, and it's like, I don't mean to be a dick. It's just, they're like, the general questions tend to get the general answers. It's like,
yeah.
Like, sure, they do things to your metabolism and nutrient absorption is probably the best I can give you. It just depends on which one.
Yeah.
Your turn.
All right.
Now you can go.
Now I can go. Where do we go here? All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. What is your peak week protocols for male competitors? Well, fuck. Like, are you talking nutrition protocols, training protocols, fucking, are you talking about sodium, water, drugs? Like, there's a lot to protocols. It depends on how we've tested food loading strategies. Obviously, what we test outside of peak week ends up probably being the strategy we use in peak week. Again, it depends also then on what your tolerance is, what your level of water is like, where we're like. Gone are the days of sodium dropping and water manipulation to the degree that people used to do it. It depends if we're doing front load, back load, linear load. Like, if we're loading heavily a couple of days before to make a certain weight cap or not. If we're doing weigh-ins and then loading, like, it all depends on what the strategy is for where we are in comp. And then you've got, obviously, like, realistically, it depends again on what we're trying to do. But for most people, we tend to deload or reduce training intensity, training volume to allow nutrient retention and obviously increase fullness, but at the same time, enough load that we're driving the food to the muscle groups that we want it, because we obviously want to retain and fill them up. However, you also got to be mindful of trying to metabolize too much energy and deplete if you're training and trying to fill it back up. So you want the food to go to use. So usually I'll find that training intensity goes down, usually in the load in the realm of loads, and it'll be increased more by sets or probably some volume, just like training higher rep ranges, easier on the joints, less fatiguing, less swelling. We're trying to bring the freshest look possible to stage. We're trying to build muscle in peak week. Driving things like sleep, when you're obviously in a route of being so stimulated, anxious, very aroused, very parasympathetic nervous system side, getting that in check, and obviously trying to push sleep as much as possible. Generally, like, a lot, depending on the condition you're in, drug load will back off a lot towards the back end of peak week. Like, you're not trying to load fucking 2 grams of gear at a point in time where you've accumulated, you're done, everything is in. You probably don't want to be loading too close to show anyway, in case of swelling and fucking inflammation. So realistically, like, a lot of anything inflammatory, we're trying to ease off towards the back end of peak week, and we're trying to increase the look of freshness or reducing fatigue by increasing food. It just depends on what condition you're in and how much food that is, how we space that out, what the strategy is, etc.
Yeah, I think for me, if you haven't practiced your peak week strategy in the second, third week leading into comp, you fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you shouldn't be necessarily guessing your peak week. It should have already been rehearsed in a sense. And you should be sort of like, okay, we know what we're doing and the responses that we're expecting. And then if you end up getting responses that are things that you weren't planning for, that's when you need to start, really thinking and working shit out. But it should be like a fine oiled machine, man. It should be like, as soon as you get to peak week, you've done this before, so you know what's going in and when, and you go from there.
Yep. What does the backside of competition look like? Reverse dieting, health phases, etc. I mean, we've done a whole episode on health phases, but realistically, like, we're trying to get you back to health first and foremost. Like, I see a lot of people argue the anabolic environment of post comp because you're putting in some food. It's a lot more. It's anabolic, but it's fat anabolism. Like, you're retaining and growing fat stores and energy to get the body back to normal balance. Thinking that that's going to be anabolically creative is just or for muscle cells is just fucking silly. There's so much stress, health inflammation, health consequences, problems, issues that we need to solve, get back to normal before we go, hey, let's push again. So health phase, like you're looking 4 to 8 weeks, retesting bloods, make sure everything's in check. If it's not, you keep going. Then from there, you look at what you decide to do after comp. But yeah, seeing where people draw the line of like, again, I know it's coach dependent, person dependent, you paid till X week, but I don't encourage coaching after 4 weeks, whatever it is. Ideally, you should have a 4 week at least strategy post comp of getting yourself back to maintenance, back to health, back to a good relationship with food, but also being in control and still getting back to some exercise and training.
Yeah.
Top 1 to 5 books you'd recommend for elite athletes? Probably not. 5 is a lot, but I know for a fact, Tim Grover's 2 books, Relentless and Winning. I would also recommend The Art of Impossible. I would also, actually 5 is not very hard at all. The Art of Impossible by Steve Kompler. Goggins is a really good one, but also I would either look at something more philosophical like Miyamoto Musashi's The 5 Rings, or exposure to Stoicism around the likes of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The one thing I find lacking in a lot of athletes that do start to hit the elite level is their lack of emotional regulation. That tends to usually cost them at that high point. Being able to be aware enough that you can regulate emotions properly is then you start to know how to push and pull back when you need to, push hard when you need to, be aggressive, be driven, be fucking full pelt with it, not react when it doesn't go your way, not throw the dummy, not spit the towel. That's where shit gets lost, like where you get in trouble. So that's probably that.
Yeah, I don't do the motivational book stuff.
That's fair.
Yeah, I've tried. If I start reading books, it's like I'm either reading books that take my brain away from work things, so anything to do with, I guess, work, training, that sort of side. Like I like to go into some fantasy books and stuff like that, really try and chill. Or I'm reading things to help educate myself in my chosen fields.
That's fair.
Yeah, I struggle.
Supplements you use, recommend during the off season.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Funnily enough, I would argue that you use less supplements in an off season because, depending on what we're talking about in terms of supplements, of course, but
yeah,
if we're talking about over-the-counter supplements, I would argue you use much less because you have a diet that should be much more inclusive.
Yes. Yeah. I guess like for me, when calories get high enough, we start looking at things like bromelain, or we start looking at betaine, anti-inflammatory. Like I'll keep fish oils in pretty much year round just for health markers. A protein powder because usually it goes into a cream of rice or an oats mix. Creatine just year round again, probably the best bet. And then usually like a stimulant if I'm fucking needing a stimulant. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I feel like digestive aid, maybe if your food gets high enough and you're just unable to, regulate that for a period of time based on outcome and goal. But yeah, I mean, you're not using much, like your general vitamins, maybe like your vitamin B and stuff like that. Maybe vitamin.
I mean, if you're enhanced, we go down the route of things like calcium and fucking what do you call it?
Maybe, but even then, I'd almost argue you probably don't need as much.
Oh, you don't need as much for sure. Yeah,
because it's amazing how much nutrition plays a part on supplementation.
Yeah,
and that's why in a deficit into a prep, the supplementation, especially over the counter supplements, probably rises to keep you functioning as high as optimal as possible. But when you're in growth phase or surplus, it's like you should be functioning at close to optimal.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, as you get to a high enough surplus, you're not optimal again because spectrum.
You're outside the ballpark. Yeah,
but you definitely have a bigger runway.
Yeah.
For being optimal or as close to optimal as possible. So
correct.
Yeah.
Most important question you ask a client in a consultation that gives you understanding. A big one for me is actually, so I kind of got 2 that I like to use, and that is understanding why haven't you achieved this in the past, and B, what is the likelihood of us achieving this? And I usually give it in a 1 to 10 scale because it tells me, like it gives them honesty or transparency as to why it hasn't happened. And if usually the first answer is like, my coach did X, Y, Z, and now a problem, and this caused this, I'm like, okay, why didn't you achieve it? What was the problem you had? And it might be like, 1 to 10, why is it your fault? Or 1 to 10, why doesn't spin achieving pass? Oh, it was a 7. Okay, why a 7? Well, I wasn't as good as I could have been. I could have been blah, blah, blah. Okay, now what's the likelihood of us achieving this together? Oh, I'm a fucking 10. Okay, why not a 9? Oh, because now I know what I know. I'm driven and I have you. Cool, sweet. That's pretty solid. Then you get to people it's like, oh, probably a 6. Okay, why is it a 6? Like having a coach, your goal should be higher likely than a 6. Got this in the way and this in the way. Okay, we're not ready for that.
Yeah, for me, it's why. Like,
Yeah.
just why. I literally had this conversation with the mentee, well, one of my mentees that I have had his call before this. And he was telling me about a client issue, trying to get the client to, like, he's over repeating himself to his client in terms of the client goal. And I'm like, if you simply ask why that's the goal,
yeah,
then it's like that's where it sort of stems, right? It's just why. Just keep asking why. It's like, when you have like that annoying sibling or that annoying family member who keeps asking why. Literally, just keep doing that.
Yeah.
You end up taking that position and just asking why, and just until they get to the bottom of their answer and see if it's viable.
We call it Socratic questioning, by the way.
Very true. I was waiting for you to say it. It's not my field. God. Do I look like somebody that fucking does that shit? No. Why?
Soccer crack in my back. Are we talking about my ass crack? Is that what's going on here?
100%. Plumber's crack.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Nice. Well, right on 50 odd minutes, I think.
Correct.
A couple of people were like, your last episode was 2 hours long. I'm like, yeah.
You're
No
welcome.
problem. Yeah, shut the fuck
Those
up.
2 good hours. It's usually an hour and 59 better than you usually give, so shut up.
Yeah, 1 hour 59 and 33 seconds. You're fucking welcome.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that is it from us. Pretty
That is it
straightforward.
from us. Next
Any
episode
questions?
will be stateside.
Oh yeah, true. We got to work out time difference.
Yeah, this will be the one where I've got to figure it out now.
Yeah, shit. We'll make it work, as always.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Never
we'll work
miss.
it out. Yeah, it's like, make sure you take all your gear. Make sure you got all your sound stuff, your microphones, and if I do that every time, I always forget.
Yeah, we got that. We're bringing all that shit. But yeah, that's pretty shit. We'll be fucking, by the time you hear from us next, we'll be stateside, getting ready for the presentation. And the one after that will be after the presentation.
Do the podcast at the presentation. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck it. We'll do it on stage. It's now the podcast presentation. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say the presentation's a podcast.
I am the captain now.
I won't even be here. I'll just be like, yeah, I'm out. Just turn my camera off. See you later. Like, I'm going to go play golf.
Fair cop.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Have
Appreciate
a safe weekend. Chat to you next week.
Peace.